So welcome back to Live or Stage K license out. Back today, and today I'm going to be starting my series on the X32 Edit app with the upcoming videos that's going to be coming on the actual X32 compact, which I'm about to have in the studio. Should be ahead by Wednesday or Thursday next week. So yeah. So we can start by opening the X32 app. You can download it from Music Tribe's website. If you go behringer.com/downloads, you should go get a tab and you just select mixer, digital mixer, and then you select the X32 or X32 compact, and you can download the X32 edit from here. Now I'm gonna set this thing to default. Now I have stuff set up a little. When you start up with a completely new download, you'll have channels 1 through 32, 1 through 16 with DCA 1 through 8, 17 to 32 with DCA 1 through 8. Then you'll have your aux effects, your auxes, and then you'll have your effect returns and your bus 13, 14, 15, and 16, which is your bus sends. And then you'll as well as your effect returns, and then you'll have your buses and matrix in one. I have laid it out how it's actually on the X32. So you have channel the full size, so channel 1 through 16, 17 to 30 through 32, aux plus effects returns, turns, bus 1 through 16 with your 3 effects or 4 effect sends, then the matrix, and then, well, TCA is actually on the other side, but, well. So, you got your setup tab. Let's do this tabs first. So the setup tab, you can connect it to your mixer via Ethernet or Wi-Fi. If you're not connected via USB. Here you can select which sample rate you wanted to do it, if what it's going to synchronize to, the internal local I/O or the AES50 AMB or expansion card. Show control, this is what shows up when you open your scenes menu. So scenes, cues, or snippets. Scenes are obviously different show files and scenes. Cues are different cues you can save. So that way, when a certain song comes or stuff in the menu, you can just click load the queue and it will load all the settings for that queue, and then you can make another queue, load that queue, blah 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 blah. We'll get more into that. Panning mode, LR plus mono or left center right enable. If it's left, right, plus mono, you have a normal left, right, and then a mono send. Left, center, right, that means if you have it, that you can have basically a 3 feed. So you got your left channel, your center channel, and your right channel, if I remember that correctly. Scene go next event, that I'm a little unsure about myself, not done that myself. Safe main levels, I think if I remember correctly, that keeps. If not safe main levels, was that it auto mutes the main on and off. Hard mutes, nothing I really dealt with myself. Link preferences is just, yeah. Basically, if you link a channel, what do you want the other channel to do? So like the fader position, the mute, dynamic EQ, HA configs, blah blah blah. All of that. Next up, we got GUI preferences. This is more for the GUI, what you want to use, PC transport control, mixer UI link. So yeah, X32 got fader mode fine, tap flashing always, bus names, not really use those much, RTA meters, send taps, window mode, and then you got your shortcut keys right here. And then you got always on top. This is basically what's going to always show up on top if you open it. MIDI control if you're using MIDI. We're not using that, so I'm not going to go too much into that one. And then we got our preamps. So we can dedicatedly control the preamps from here. And then we got the expansion card if we had an expansion card connected. We do not, so that does matter. I guess I could just do the meters first because those are easy. Meters, basically all your different meters for all your channels 1 through 32. Gate reduction gate and gain reduction dynamics. Mix bus meters, matrix meters, main bus. Aux effects, sense returns, and ST effect returns meters, and in and out for all of them. Then we got the routing. Need to get music, yes. So here we got the routing. So this is how you're gonna route things. So we got our inputs 1 through 8, 9 through 16, 17 to 24, and 25 to 32. So here you can select if you want them to come from your local I/O, AES50A or B. If you have a digital stage box like the Behringer S16 or X32. I think there's also an S8 version, if I'm not mistaken. And then we got the card 1 through 32 if you want to do live 32 playback from like multi-track or whatnot. Then we got our 16 outputs, so we can select what our 16 outputs do. So yeah. We can also pull direct out from certain channels, direct out aux. Then we got output delay. If you're doing something like a DJ and a club stack, where you have speakers up front and then you got some speakers further back, you can delay them. Delay your front speakers if you get sound in the back too late, and well, delay your backer speakers if they get sound too soon. So that's the thing you can do with the output delay. Aux outputs, these are your aux outputs. You can assign them. Usually what I use aux outputs for is in-ears, because in-ears can take a aux line out better than, for example, say a normal speaker or monitor, by personal experience. So I usually use those for in-ears if I don't have enough outputs on the back of the board. Ultranet, this is for your P16 Ultranet for using together with your Behringer P16 personal monitoring system. So you can select which direct out channels you want or different mix buses. I haven't used the Ultranet that much, but personally for Ultranet, what I will probably do is try to put as much stuff as you can into various mix buses if you're using P16 Ultranet only for monitors, because you only have 16 channels. So what I like to do is put, say, things like kick in a separate bus, and then put all the toms in one group, including the snare, and then the cymbals in it separate. So that's 3, and then you can put stuff like guitars in one group, blah, blah. So yeah, and then like guitar leads maybe, and then backing guitars, and then vocals, bass, keys. But I rarely use the P16 Ultranet, so that's the thing. Also, via the P6 Ultranet, you can also use the Turbo Sounds IQ series speaker control, because that can also take the Ultranet. If I remember correctly, some of QSC's speakers can also take Ultranet, if I'm not mistaken. Although they don't have official support by Behringer. Then we got our card outputs. This is what the card gets. So normally a local or AES or whatnot, depending on what you're going to be recording. So yeah, Then you have the AS50A and B, what outputs you want, and then XLR output, which then selects where you want your XLR outputs to go, or if it's your local or AS or normal out or whatnot. Resize, just if you want to resize the window, so that doesn't really matter. Library, in the library here you can add stuff like save a specific channel with your presets. So see, you have an entire drum set that you have pre-queued for a single setup, and you know that this worked great, and depending on mic placement it only needs a little bit of EQ adjustment. Then you could take it, save like that entire drum set of like 12 channels in here, and that way when you pull up onto a new show file, you can just select and load them onto the channel and use about 3 minutes to pop them into the channel and do EQ adjustment, instead of sitting there for like 15 minutes doing EQs for drums. 15-20 minute-ish, depending. The same you can do for effects, and the same you can do for routing if you have a specific routing option. Assign section, that's your set A, B, and C of user assignable control section. We'll dive a little more into that later. Then you got your monitor. This is your normal monitoring on the back for control room out. So you got extrude blast, solo, follow, select, all the DCA, A-bus, solo, all of that. Then you got your delay, you got dim attributes, and then you got source stream and the actual monitor level. Then you got your talkback A and B, which says itself, talkback to the station. Then you have an oscillator / pink noise generator. Then we got utility, which is basically just all you can put up like external windows of your different stuff. Now, is that one just laying in the background now? I don't know, is it? Yes, it is. No. Thank you. So as utility, then we got our scene section where you got your scenes, your cues, and your snippets. So basically, we'll go into the cues pretty much first, because that's going to be the easiest to learn. Because then you got just quick save, load, copy, blah 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 for the scenes. So yeah. So let me show you the channel. So for each channel you got your mute, your fader, your solo. You also have your auto mix here, your auto mix. Well, if it's enabled, that is, you got your auto mix X or Y in that case, depending. Then you got here is your DCA assignment, or quick assignment as I like to call it, and your mutes groups down here. Get off mute group, thank you. Then you have your pan control, your I think it's dynamics, EQ, gate, and then your sends, FX, 48 volt, and polarity. If you go on the channel, you get a little more information. So you got your stereo link, left right, which links faders together. This only works for equal channels, not odd channels. So 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6 will work, but like 6 and 7 and 9 and 10 will not work. 48 volt phantom power, polarity, delay. You got your FX side inserts or accents. You got your gain inserts for your pre-insert or post-insert, your dynamics pre and 2. You got your noise gate, you got your equalizer and your compression quick settings, as I like to call them. Then you got your left-right mono stereo, your mono center, Auto mix X and Y, only available on the first 8 channels, by the way. Your DCA groups, your mute groups, and your bus ends. Then you got config. Basically the same left stereo link phantom power polarity, but here you can also select where you get the source from. So like for example on my studio set, I was not supposed to press off on you. For example on the studio set that I have in the studio here, I only have 16 channels on the Behringer X32 compact. But if I want to mic a drum set, I'd like to have some more channels for doing processing on, but I don't necessarily need to use all the mics that you could have used for doing it. Of course, more mics would be better for this exact scenario, but you can do it too without. So like for example for the kick, I like to have a kick in and a kick out, or sub kick and normal kick. Basically different from that one is that the sub kick takes the low end part of the kick and the normal kick takes the high end of the kick. So what I do in this situation is that I use one mic and I just assign, say I pull it in on channel 9, I just put channel 9 on both, or input 9 on say channel 17 and 18, or channel 12, 11 and 12 for example, depending. Can show you guys my scene later, my own scene. So that you can change here. Then you have your low cut and your delay, and here you have your effects insert So this insert I usually only use for geographical EQs, everything that's on effects. What are they called again? Effects. You get my point, like the effects input, anything that's in the box 5 through 8 is the only one I do a direct insert on. The first 4 I usually have assigned to bus 13 through 16, which is my drum ambience, my instrument reverbs, my normal Vox reverbs, and my Vox delays. And here you can select if you want them to be pre or if you want them to be post. Most of the time I use post, because I want to have it happen after the EQ and dynamics. Or after the EQ, post EQ. So yeah, and then the insert. Then we got our gate a little more in depth of the gate. So here you got your sidechain filter, your gain envelope, gate expander. Jesus fucking. So here you can select within a Docker, a gate expander, 4:1, 3:1, or 2:1 ratio. Basically, a gate is just a straight normal gate expander, kinda. What shall I call it? It's like if you see a gate, that's a gate that just cuts it off. A expander will have a gradual closing rather than just a straight off cut, which can be nice to use on some situations, like in, for example, a kick drum. Then you got your attack time, your hold time, your release time, and your key filter with the frequency and the type. Then you got your dynamics, your knee, your compression / expander. You can also do an expander here if you want to, but I rarely do that. Your ratio, your mix, your gain, makeup gain, attack, hold, release, and sidechain key filter. Then you got your EQ section, your 4-band or 4-band EQ with a low cut. Your selection between low cut, low shelf, PQ, VQ, high shelf, and high cut. Then we got that dedicated send section where you can select was pre-fader and post-fader. Pretty much all my monitors usually is pre-fader, so they can get stuff before I send it out, or the send to them is pre-fader, which means the monitors will always have sound from the set level, but my PA can be muted and they can still have sound or whatnot. And then obviously post fader for like effects and stuff. But that is for the output sides of things. And then we got so pre-fader for the input to the bus, but output from the bus is post-fader, because we want, when we turn down the fader, we want them to go off, of course, but into the bus is pre-fader. Then we got our left-right main and mono center, panorama, Firemakes DCA groups, blah blah blah. Then you got weight and GI, which is apparently group assignments for the automix. I barely used the automix, practically never used it, so I won't be talking about the automix section in my tutorial. Then we got our effects rack 1 through 4. Let's call it effects rack, and effects rack 5 through 8. So effects rack 1 to 4 is pretty much going to be your what shall you call it, bus effects or whatnot, and FX rack 5 to 8 is going to be your sidechain or insert effects. So like say wave designer for kick drum and sub kick and stuff like that. I'll be going more into details on that sooner or later. So yeah, and then FX 5 to 8. So, and then down here, you have your clear solo, talk about main, left, right, and mono center. And here is also what is going to be your in-app sense on fader. So if you select it, then you have your send to mix +1. You can also see it moving up here. So that's going to be your effect sense, and then you have your main, left, right. Boom. So, I guess we could start off with the first thing you would want to do for any simple mix. I'm just going to be using, I'm just going to drop a drum set, and I'm just going to do a simple setup throughout these 16 channels. But basically this is when you want to start naming shit. So if you right click, you can name stuff. Behringer also has predetermined stuff for this, but basically we can say Vox 1 or vocal 1 is usually what I call them in here, but for the sake of saving time making this video, I'm just going to do it this way. So say you got 3 vocals, 3 vox, we got a bass GTR, tar, we got a mono electric GTR. Then we got a electric GTR left and an electric GTR right, which is a can be taken as a Shure SM57 technique. This is basically where you put 2 Shure SM57s and one about a cap of a Shure SM57 back behind the other mic, and then put them a little off axis in the speaker of a guitar amp for getting sound through. So I'm going to take and go into config here and press Alt, stereo link. Do you want to link channels? Link this channel together. So everything I do on this channel or this channel will be copied to each channel. Then we have keys left, keys right, so stereo keys. Also stereo keys, stereo link, yes. Well, that's about it for the simple band. So we'll focus on these for now. So I'll just black out these for the time being. So we don't care about these. So now if you want to save this as a scene, you can pop in here, pop into your scenes. Gonna save this on number 2 as stage K tutorial. We save the scene. And I'm just gonna press load on this one so this thing corresponds with itself, because it's having a hard time doing that apparently. So now let me talk a little bit quick about this queue section. So basically, let us create first a queue now called none, or mute. That's it. Then we can, let me just get a relative level to what would be a practical mix in my ears. So we got our leads, we got our piano, we got our bass about here-ish, and then we got our vocals at the top. So then we can say save this scene as another one. Oh, yes, I forgot about that, because we got the cues. And then in the cues comes the snippets. That's how it works. Now I remember how this works. So snippets is the channels. Cues are the different cues, and then those corresponds to snippets. So let's select all the channels, all the effects, all the buses, all the DCA groups and matrix buses, param filter, everything. Good. So let's do this again. So let's do Vox 1 and 2. Save Vox 1 plus 2 sing. Save snippet. Then, oops, wait a minute, oops. We're gonna save, we're gonna overwrite the snippet because I forgot to unmute it. Then we mute them. Then we bring up these two, which is Vox 3 plus 4 sing. Hold up. Oh, okay. And then we mute them, and then we go in here, and then we do this one, which is instrumental, mental. And then we go in here and mute all, and then save another snippet called mute. So then we go back into the queues, and then I'm gonna add another queue called mute. So then here we add Vox 1 to 2 sing U, we add Vox 3 to 4 sing, we add instrumental, and then we add the mute inside of stage K tutorial. So now if you look in the background here, if I load this queue, this, there we go, loads that snippet. If I then load this one, it's gonna load that snippet together with the Vox. Go on this one, if I load this one, and this one. And then if you load this one, it's gonna load that one and then load the mute. Now I think, if I remember correctly, you can just put none on the scene. And if you put none on the scene, if I remember correctly, then this one should just load the snippet. So if I press load, it loads the snippet. If I press load, it puts the other snippet. If I load this one, it pulls the other snippet. And if I pull this one, it pulls the other snippet. So basically, if you don't put a scene in, it won't be reloading the scene whenever it's trying to apply the snippets. You could just go into snippets and do it that way. But if you want to have like a queue, more accurate, more appropriate queue list where you can just skip things, you can just put them in there and just drop adding a scenes. The only place where I would really put in scenes there is if you have multiple different times and acts. So like say you got one act that requires one scene, and then you got another act that requires another scene for different channels or other processing or whatnot. You can have one scene, say maybe on, you can have a queue list with the first queue and the first scene, and then the rest be just snippets, and then put in the next one, and then blah 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 on. But that's at least how the snippets in the queue system works. So, that I guess is really it for the first episode of this tutorial series. Really the most basic, really, of how to use the program and your scenes, queues and snippets.